Welcome back to the Woven Well podcast. If you've struggled to conceive a pregnancy, then you know how infuriatingly powerless you can feel. You don't always have a lot of options, and the ones that you do have are usually given to you in a way that could feel really urgent or sometimes even forceful. How can you know what the right steps are for you? How can you discern where God is leading? Well, that's why we have client stories here on the podcast. We want you to be able to hear from real women who have faced those same dilemmas and asked the same questions. So today I'd like to introduce you to Loren. Loren struggled to conceive and was told that IVF was her only option. Thankfully, that wasn't the case, and she's here to share a bit of her own story with us. Loren, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I really appreciate you coming and sharing a little bit of what your journey was like and where you are now. I kind of saved some of that information because I thought you may want to share it with us. And why don't you introduce yourself to us?
My name is Loren. I am 31 years old and I have been married to my sweet husband for almost 9 years. And we now have a precious 2-year-old little boy. And thanks to Creighton and Woven, we are expecting a baby girl in May. So I'm very
Yay!
excited.
Yes, we're all so very excited. Now, like I hinted in the introduction there, you did not have an easy journey to get to that pregnancy. Um, why don't you share what the process was to get there? Like, wherever you want to start, what even brought you to Woven in the first place? Give us a little backstory.
So my husband and I got married in 2016. And after a few years, we were really wanting to start a family. And so late 2018, early 2019, started trying to get pregnant. And 6 months in, I saw my OB and they said, that oh you're young, it'll just take some more time. About a year in, they had told me, oh, maybe it's just stress levels. I'm a nurse and I worked in a trauma ICU at the time, so I did have somewhat stressful job, but they didn't do any more digging than that. They
Mm.
just said just might take a little more time. At that point, we had moved to Huntsville, Alabama, and so we were starting new jobs, and it was actually 2020. So
Mm.
it was a little chaotic time. But after a little while, I was able to find a new OB who um, actually listened a little more, started doing a little more digging. I started doing the LH strips and doing a little more cycle tracking and had a HSG done. Eventually was put on some fertility medication to try to see if that would help. And after all of that, they sent me to, ultimately sent me to a fertility clinic after diagnosing me with unexplained infertility.
Mhm.
Um,
Diagnosing you with unexplained
right.
infertility.
Uh, and so we were going into that appointment expecting to maybe run some more tests and find some more answers. At this point, it was 2021, and um, we went to our first appointment. And I remember sitting with the doctor, my husband and I, and one of the first things that she said was, I really think IVF is going to be the next best option for you guys.
Mm.
And we were just, we were a bit dumbfounded. We didn't have any words to say because we were going in expecting to do some more digging, some more tests. Um, and she basically said that because after looking through all of our history and test, that there really wasn't anything else that they could do for us, that they only had so much technology to work with. Um, and she had mentioned that we could do IUIs, but really didn't think that that would work for us because we were young and healthy. We were both 27 at the time. And we we just didn't know what to say. Ultimately, we left deciding, let's just try the IUIs,
Mm-hmm.
see what happens. We did 3 medicated IUIs. Even though I didn't need the medicine, they just wanted to give me every chance that I could. And they all failed. Um, and so uh, early 2022, we walked into the office and they had another meeting about IVF being our only
Mm-hmm.
option left. And we still didn't know much about IVF at the time. We do now. And looking back, it was just so new to us. Um, it was just a lot to take in. And we decided that we were just going to wait. We were young and I don't know, try to figure things out on our own, see where God wanted to take us from there.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks later, after being told that IVF was our only option, I got my first ever positive pregnancy test. So that was just kind of a miracle. And
Yeah.
that turned out to be our little boy who was born that year in October. So that was just such a blessing. And it wasn't long after having him that we were like, okay, we love having our baby boy and we would love to have more if
Uh-huh.
possible. And we knew that it took us like so much time to get pregnant with him that just before he turned a year, we kind of wanted to start trying again. About 4 months in, nothing was happening. I was already getting, all the same feelings that were coming back from our
Mm-hmm.
struggles before. And when I saw my OB for my annual, I had mentioned everything that we went through, and this was like a new OB, so she didn't previously know. So I had mentioned everything that we went through and then told her that I really wanted to not go through that again. And if we could try something else or maybe do some more digging or some more tests to see if there was a more natural way, because I knew that my body could conceive on its own. We just didn't know how it did. And she kind of paused and said, well, that's great. So whenever you're ready to start fertility meds again, then just come see me and I'll help you with that. And
Oh, so disappointing.
yeah, because I had taken all the meds before and they didn't do anything for me. And so that same day, I got on Google and was trying to research all these things. And I actually was just listening to another podcast on the way home in the car. I love listening to podcasts. And they had mentioned NAPRO technology. And I had never even heard that term before after all these years of struggling with infertility. So this whole new world was opened up to me. And I just started Googling everything I could about that at home. And thankfully, I found you in Woven. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I have to reach out to her. I'm not really sure what this is, but it's something else other than everything that they had offered before, something different.
Yes.
And you sent me a podcast episode to listen to. And I remember hearing on the podcast that you had said that unexplained infertility was not a diagnosis. And I was like, yes, I found somebody who can help me through this. And I was just so thankful to have found you. So we started working together, and you started helping me track my cycles with Creighton. Then you also helped me find a doctor to work with because I had also really wanted to find a nephro-technologist. But what was funny was I think we had like one practice, like charting with Creighton, one full cycle. And the next cycle, I had a positive pregnancy test.
Yes.
So crazy. That was very surprising. I remember telling my mom that, and she was like, "Oh, wow! So, wow! I'm so happy you found woven and this Creighton method." And unfortunately, a couple days later, I did miscarry that pregnancy.
Yeah.
Um, but I had also just started seeing my naprotechnologist that week, and so I was working with Dr. Peterson, and because I was in close contact with her, she was able to order labs that same day. And I just felt so heard from
Mm.
you and her. And we did find out that my levels were really low, a lot lower than they needed to be. And so I continued to work with you and tracking that next cycle. And she also was making sure that my levels were good during that cycle. And the third cycle of tracking with Creighton got my a third positive pregnancy test ever, which is crazy to say. And we were able to make sure that that one stuck because I was able to supplement with the needed medication. And um, so, yeah, that's how I'm here today.
You are. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. And how empowering to go from a place where you knew nothing about what was wrong and why you weren't conceiving to knowing what's behind it and being able to even potentially prevent future pregnancy loss by working with a naprotechnology physician. Just such a difference in your journey.
Yes. And I think the Creighton method in particular, I remember it's funny, my husband was like, is this all we needed? Like, did we just need Creighton all along? But it really helped me learn my cycles. Even though I had normal cycles, they still did vary within that range. And so I think there might have been times looking back that I wasn't taking a pregnancy test soon enough and maybe
Mm.
um, thought that I was having a period and might have miscarried and had no idea. But by using the Creighton, it was just able to help me learn my body so much more. I was so much more in tune with everything and knew exactly when to test. And we were able to help save this pregnancy because of that. So that was
Yeah.
really cool.
You make such a good point that it is always important to understand your own cycles and your own reproductive biomarkers. I think that often in a situation like yours, you get so far down the line. I mean, you are staring IVF in the face, so to speak. You think that's your only option here. And you think, oh, well, going back and learning my cycles, how could that possibly be helpful? I'm so far beyond that. I'm so far past understanding my cycles.
Mhm.
But no, actually getting back to the basics is a great place to begin. First of all, to be able to accurately identify your window of fertility, but two, to figure out what is the root cause of this infertility. Like you mentioned, and there are other episodes, so I'm not going to go into it detailed right now, but unexplained infertility, I'm using quotes here because there is always an explanation. There is always a root cause for why these things are happening, whether conception is not happening or if early conception is happening, but there are early losses. And you deserve to know why those things are going on. It's
Yes.
not going to be this standard process for every single couple that gets them results. They need to be individualized. They need to be tailored to the unique people that are going through their own unique journey. And it sounds like that's been a real benefit for you.
It really has. And, with my nursing background, I felt like I did understand how to track my cycles. And after so many years of infertility as well, like learning how to test with the LH strips and getting blood work done, I really thought that we had tracked everything. But it's so true that we have to look at each individual person and not just like a textbook like timing of when to maybe check things. So we knew exactly when we needed to check my levels in the time of my cycle. And that was, I think, really helpful as well. And I loved not having
Absolutely.
to depend on like test strips or taking a temperature and having, like, I used to use my watch and I wasn't very dependable. And also, I'd have to make sure it was charged. And so I just felt so much more empowered with the Creighton method.
I'm so glad. And I know that this is a short episode, and so probably there are listeners going, "Oh, I want more." But I would encourage you to listen to other episodes. We have other client stories, but we also have a lot of information about what the Creighton model system is, what NAPRO technology is, all the things that Lauren's referring to. So, Loren, if you could say one thing to listeners out there who may be in a very similar situation as yourself, what would you say?
Oh my goodness. Trust the process. You might want to not be, you might want to just jump in and get answers. But it is a little bit of a process, but it's so worth it. No matter the outcome, I think that you only have to gain from learning more about your body. And then also, like my relationship with the Lord just grew so much during this time. I think because I continued to just go to Him in prayer. And that really helped me so much, just knowing that He was there and comforting me. And no matter the outcome, that He was going to see it through. God
Yes.
is so sovereign. So,
Mm. Beautifully said, Loren. That is a key part to all of this is reconnecting with our design, reconnecting with our designer, the God who crafted us with beauty and intention and does not want us to be suffering and in despair, but wants to connect with us through this process. As you said, regardless of the outcome,
yeah.
wants to be um, a source of joy and comfort and a sustainer to us throughout all of it. So,
Mm.
Loren, thank you so much for being on and for sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me, Caitlin.
Listeners, we ask honest questions here about our fertility and our faith. We believe that our bodies were made with beauty and purpose, and that we are intimately designed and loved by our Creator, and that fertility plays a meaningful role in our lives. We believe that this matters for all of us, regardless of our marital status or pregnancy intentions, and I would love for you to be a part of that community. So you can learn the Creighton model system just like Loren did if you want. We'll be sure to have a link to that in our show notes, but also check out the other episodes. If you're struggling with whether or not to pursue IVF, we have resources available for you. As always, thanks for listening as we continue to explore together what it means to be woven well.